Good morning and welcome to Saturday special of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. The civilization goals nowadays are gender equality, equality of all, especially upliftment of the vulnerable classes. And gender equality is extremely important because the women constitute 50% of the population, if not more. Curiously, our heroes of the past, other heroines for that matter, are worshipped, deemed sacrosanct for those ideas which are not relevant at all to them. Sita, wife of Ramayana, or Ram in Ramayana, sorry, is deemed to be demure, devoted wife, which she was. But in reality, if you look at it, underneath the surface, she emerges as epitome of women empowerment. She was a precursor of the women lib organization and a single mother as I stressed in my other talk. Now, a Hindi word, Stree Shakti, women power, is the civilization goal, and Sita is the unsung hero of women power, Stree Shakti. And basically, if you look at it in the revealing context, the women's full potential being realized and brought to the core has a historic lead, and that is since the times of Rig Veda, coming down to Ramayana and then to the present time. The fact that she was the embodiment of women power was eclipsed for one reason only, and that was the rise of patriarchal families. The patriarchal system, the man being physically stronger, ensured that the women were seen only as a demure, obedient, faithful wife. Husband could be unfaithful, fine. But the women had to be faithful. Obedient, yes, even to the extent of being banished when pregnant. Now, Sita, the unsung hero, has to be celebrated for that reason. And if you look at the fully designed remarks, the Indian nation was more inclusive and less hierarchical than it is today. As a matter of fact, at that time, when a washerman was able to comment on the wife of the king, and that comment was not censored. In modern days, if that thing happens, maybe the washerman would be imprisoned on some charge or the other, if not sedition, something else. But no, he was listened to. So that's one part. But the fact that not only was his word acted upon, shows male superiority, the complex. Now, the term Virangana, the warrior female, and possibly the use of this word for that lady, the demure Sita, may not be acceptable to many, but that's a fact. She was a Virangana, she was a women fighter. She fought to protect her honor, her prestige, and basically she looked at it wholly through a feminist perspective. And that enabled the emergence of an indigenous paradigm, and that's laced with the emergence of new concept which redefines the power in terms of connection. Now it would be placing the wheels of soft power of culture in neglected form. You see, the whole historical background, if you look at it, we have to understand that the Indian Vedic philosophy stresses women as Shakti, the power, So Stree Shakti is not something new. As a matter of fact, in the prehistoric, even in the epics and the scriptures, even when the angels failed to suppress the demons, what did they do? They turned to women. So Durga came into being to destroy the demons. So this Stree Shakti took different forms, but they were the nucleus of power, and Sita is an embodiment of that. The element of courage and sacrifice, since Ramayana period, of its two stalwarts, and those stalwarts are Ram and Sita, are preserved the folklore, songs, the regional role, and their potential to initiate a discourse on a just world order, Ram Raja, what they call it, but it's based on the ideas of duty, community service, others before self, and sacrifice of the supreme order. Now, the concept of women's full potential being realized and brought to the core has a historical leap since the times of Vedas and comes down to Ramayana. Even if we ignore Maitri and Gayatri of the Vedas, we see in Sita a special warrior who in fact is a role model in various fields. I know most of you would be startled by that, but she is a role model in various fields such as law, governance, science, technology, bureaucracy, academics, and politics. And as a matter of fact, as I said, she is the embodiment of women empowerment because she restates the manifold contribution of women in both public and the private spaces. As a warrior, for example, and a strong woman, Sita's strength here does not necessarily mean physical strength. It is moral strength, is the strength of the character, and is the strength of her mind. She could face all the allurements of Ravana and not be subject to his desires. She could leave the royal home and go into the forest in exile with Ram. She could face the charges and was willing to go into a forest for 14 years and then bring up her two sons as a single mom, and then ultimately again, instead of going and living with Ram, she preferred to die. That is a symbol of endurance. That's a symbol of silent power of suffering and sacrifice. But then, let's not forget that also redefines the contours of power, and it writes a fresh script of power to connect and heal, not to dominate. Though she was a single mother, she ensured that her sons do not in any way get alienated from the father. And she never blamed her husband, though he was guilty at the time of neglecting her. So she has the patience and integrity, and she has a potential to show a new conflict-free way of life to the nation. Amazingly, she gave a new definition to motherhood by being a single parent. And not only a single parent, but also a teacher for her children, and set an example of extraordinary determination. That aspect of Sita has been ignored. The only aspect that has been talked about is pativrata, devoted to husband. That's sheer reducing the stature of this lady. Now then come to the realm of statecraft, diplomacy, eco-commitment, symbiotic relationship between different forms of life, idea of womanhood, feminism, and rethinking. So you see Sita is reinventing your traditions. She doesn't hesitate to go into the forest in exile. She has the capacity to bring up her children and bring them up fully conversant in the statecraft, diplomacy. This is a symbiotic relationship between different forms of life. And the fact that she could live herself for 14 years and bring up her children, educating them, shows the strong streak of feminism. As a matter of fact, the whole process shows the urgency of transcendency from materiality to immortal essentialism. Now, this concept of essentialism, which is ultra-modern concept, was practiced by Sita at two times especially, when she was prisoner of Ravana and when she was living in the forest. And she's a rare example of intellect and decision maker. Sita remains the finest and rare intellectual encounter where she weaves her own narrative of decision making to a new level. Now imagine she is born without a womb. She is a female avatar. She is Vadai, whose existence can be reached beyond her body. She doesn't have a womb. And most of people are not aware that Vadai means that her existence can be reached beyond her body. She is Maithili. There is a linguistic tradition thus embodying the supreme power of human expression and a high spiritual possibility. And that's beyond all the trappings, physical trappings, material trappings. And then what does it point to? It points to a new possibility of Indic discourse, and that is weaning away from women's discourse center. So she becomes more Catholic and more human and more humane. She's not like feminist, concentrated or focused on being a sexual aspect of being a woman. No, she takes the intellectual independence, the feminism in the real sense of the word. If Rosa Parker, the feminist, fought for the suffrage rights, she did much more. As I said, she's a pioneer in freedom. There's a scenario where bloodline is decided by the male son. And we have a special case of Janki, who is Janak's daughter, to carry forward the physical and the material trappings. So this is quite a change. The whole Indic concept of having a male who would decide the bloodline of any king or any person is a lady who, as a daughter, carries forward the physical and the material trappings of family. Sita's character, if we look at it in entirety, is a reflection and moral dimension of the human life. She creates a space where one can reconcile with the consciousness, and that enables one to make genuine reflection on the moral and spiritual dimensions of human life. God, the alter ego, Rama, when contrasted with Sita, shows a lot of lacuna as a matter of fact. He is more interested in appearance because a washerman has said something, so it must be listened to. And she asserts her individuality. She proves by Agni Priksha that she is pure, and then she says, no, I have been humiliated, I have been thrown out on the basis of unverified rumors, so no, I'll go back to the earth. The daughter of the earth goes back to the earth. And thus she appears as an epitome, as a personification of extremely sensitive and moving, powerful character that it is. It's imperative to revisit the growth and important markers of Indian feminism, which cannot be dated post-colonial in its experience. India is possibly the only country where the women have had their role right from the time of Vedic age. I refer to Maitri, Gayatri, Sita, Draupadi, and so on. And that's why, one of the comments made by Mr. Singh Jaspal was, why not Draupadi? Draupadi is of a different genre altogether. Brave, feminist, but also manipulative. Let's not forget that. So I will take that up another time. But then let's not deny that Indian feminism is not a dated post-colonial experience. As a matter of fact, if we do it, we leave a large body of oral, literary and cultural history of India's subcontinent, which dates back to the Vedas. In order to retrieve the lost consciousness of binding force, then we have to bring in Sita, who was a testimony. And I call Sita a testimony of whatever stands for human dharma, the religion in the manifestation. She was in fact a binder, a marker to rally around, and hence Indian feminism can't be revisited without locating Indian feminism through Vedas. And then if we look at the history synchronization and harmony of man, nature, culture that is culminated in exceptional spiritual experience through its culture practice, Sita is seen as a uniting force. She is a deep spiritual tradition. But what has happened is the popular image has confined her only as a demure wife. And it appears all the conflicting traits and attributes come together in a harmonious manner on the issue of Janaki. She is a powerful character, always respected the sanctity of human love, always. But she never lost an opportunity to question with a powerful, resolute efficacy. And she gives basically a credence to Upanishads, civilizational value of a nation, which has a legacy of questioning and which has a legacy of being inquisitive, a cerebral society, an open dialogue nation with adequate space for freedom of thought and speech. So this is important to map the practices, paces, and the set narratives to invoke the Indian telling of its own warrior daughter. I call her a warrior daughter. To be a warrior, you need not take up a sword and fight. No. But the way you live is a fight by itself. And she was a warrior for her. And the charismatic cultural icon has remained unsung and unrecognized. That's a tragedy. Sita has been taken only one aspect of Sita has been stressed. But she is multi-hued, multi-dimensional character whose impact should be visualized and contemplated from all aspects. And then you would see Sita as the first feminist, the first single mother, the first advocate for women's freedom, equality, if not better than being men. So, she was in fact a revolutionary in her own way, setting a new trend of women empowerment. And that's why she personifies women empowerment, except for the fact that this aspect was clouded by patriarchal system. Thank you. I